Careful. Make me go Pentecostal here in the Baptist church. Wow, I loved it. Daddy. Okay, that's all I've got. Good to be back. Still good to be all of us on 2 feet. Kind of goes with what we're going to be talking about today. That was perfect. Perfect. We've talked about God's holiness and His righteousness and His justice for the past few times. We need to step away from that a little bit. Because when we talk about God, we want to encompass all of who God is. And we cannot go talking about our God unless we talk about who He is, who He says He is, and He says He is love. God says, I am love. And if you can intertwine the two, actually, in all passages. God is love or love is God. You can find that in Corinthians 2, or 1 Corinthians 13, rather. I'll get to that verse in a minute. But what is a love that we're talking about with Christ? What is a love in His hands? What is a love in His heart? What does He see when He looks at you? What does He see when He looks? I mean, here's a guy that went to the cross himself. A guy the other day, his wife is Italian, and he's fussing at her. And he said, well, you're the ones that put Jesus on the cross. Well, no, not exactly. They just did the job. The Jews put Him there, but He let Himself go there. Why? Why? Because of love. Yes, it was because of justice. Yes, it was because of righteousness. Yes, things had to be fulfilled, but if He didn't love us, He wouldn't have fulfilled the righteousness and the justice. And what does He tell us about what He did? Yeah, He laid down His life. He laid down His life. And in John 15, 12 through 14, I'll start with this one and then I'll get to the woman. He tells us that this is my commandment, that you love one another as I've loved you. Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for his friends. And you, my friends, if you do whatever and you are my friends if you do what I command you. Talking about laying down his life. And it reminded me, we may actually carry this one on because there's a lot to it. So we'll do some of it today. I like sequels because that makes you wait. And, But it reminds me of a story about two brothers. Two brothers that were not brothers by blood, but brothers in life, that walked together. And they walked together through the wars of Ireland. And in the end, one was killed and went home, the other wasn't. And it left them with a song that went something like this. Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling. From glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the roses falling. 'Tis you must go and I must bide. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow. Oh, when the valley's hushed and white with snow. And I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so. There was a love between two brothers that one was willing to lay down his life when his brother was about killed, and he jumped in front of a cannon shot and took the bullet, and he ended up dying and not coming home. But he's the one in the grave singing, I loved you so. I was willing to do that for you. See, the love of Christ is not just a love that speaks. It's not just a love that filled this book, but it is a love that is active and working. In your lives, love works. I've actually had the pleasure of seeing His love work in people's lives. And if you're not sure about anybody else, and you know that love is real in you, look in the mirror. See what the love He's given has done for you. In John 4, we start out with the woman from Samaria. She gave me water. That one. Now he had to go through Samaria, so he come to a town called Sychar. Now the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey. We'll stop right there for just a minute. How many of us in our Christian lives go so long and get so weary? Because we just can't stop. We've got to do what God says to do. We need to follow Jesus a little more and understand His love for us, because what did He do? He was tired from His journey, and what did He do? He sat down. You know, a lot of times when we follow Christ and when we learn His love for us, we find that His love is common sense in our lives. That a lot of things that we think we can't do, He did. I used to feel guilty about taking a nap. I don't anymore. And we were talking earlier today about where He went to the multitudes, and he got up the next morning, and His disciples said, the multitudes are waiting on you. And He said, well, they're just going to have to wait. He got in a boat and left. Why? Because He was tired and He was going to rest and be with His Father. Did it take His love away? No, I didn't take His love away. We're going to see that. Will you give me a drink? When the Samaritan woman came to draw water, He said, will you give me a drink? His disciples had gone to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to Him, well, you're a Jew and I'm a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? For Jews do not associate with Samaritans. There's two things right there I want you to see. Samaritans was as lepers to the Jews. And Jesus was considered a rabbi, a good rabbi at the time. And a good rabbi was supposed to walk around the Samaritans and not even speak. They didn't have to yell unclean. He just left them alone because they were not of the same breed as Jews. Well, first off, He stopped and talked to this Samaritan, the one that's supposed to be nothing in their eyes. Second off, she was a woman. I'm sorry, ladies. Those days, women was just considered property. That they weren't considered really part of the pillars of the community or any. That's what they were. They weren't talked to. They weren't thought of, any more than the kids or anybody else at the time. Their input didn't needed. You didn't talk to women like this. He did. So number one, it was a Samaritan. Number two, it was a woman. All right, we're starting to see His love start to grow here. If you knew the gift of God and who it was that asked you for a drink, you would have asked Him, and He would have given you living water. Sir, the woman said, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, and did also his sons and his livestock? When Jesus comes and He offers you living water, when He comes and He offers you the love He was offering her, it wasn't just the water, it was the living water of love that He was offering her. When He offers you that, when He comes into your life, no matter how long you've walked with Him, it may be a few days or it may be 80 years. When He offers you this, how do you receive it? How do you receive this love that He offers you with this? You seen how she did? Well, you're going to give me water? You got nothing to draw with. You're talking to me, I know, but, how are you going to get the water from the well? Totally missing the concept of what He was saying. And how many times do we do that? How many times do we miss the concept of what Jesus is speaking into our lives because we just can't feel we accept that kind of love that He's offering? It's easy to forgive everyone, but we can't forgive ourselves is what it comes down to. Jesus told me one time, and you know what I mean when I read from the Word. He didn't stand in front of me, but I felt like He should have. But He said, you're doing what my enemy wants to do. He said, I love you, and I accepted you, and I brought you in, but now you're doing what the enemy, you're telling me that I can't do something, and you can. That's a scary thing when you start thinking about what the Lord's saying is to you. But what He was telling me was, He said, in my love, I forgave you. But you're better than me because you can't forgive yourself. Now that really turned me aside because, I always believed wholeheartedly that he forgave me, but he was right. His love can turn you away from even your own and turn you into forgiving yourself. He says, I will forgive you as you forgive others. Do you realize you're one of those others? There's got to be something in here that realizes that love is all-encompassing. And we'll see that here in a minute. Jesus said, everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life. The woman said, Sir, give me this water so I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here. He told her, go call your husband and come back. Boy, wait a minute. All of a sudden wait a minute. You know how you think you've got a great deal going and all of a sudden somebody just says something and you're like, uh-oh, here it comes. Go and get your water. Go and get your husband and come back. She replied, she said, I have no husband. Jesus said, you are right when you say you have no husband. The fact is you had 5 husbands and the man you now live with is not your husband. What you have just said is quite true. Sir, the woman said, I can see that you are a prophet or ancestor. Our ancestors worshipped in this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where you must worship is Jerusalem. Woman, Jesus replied, believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation's from the Jews. Yet a time is coming and has now come when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. In spirit and in truth. And what gets me today is so many people, and we're talking about His Spirit. And so many people don't want to believe in a Holy Spirit. They don't want to believe in this kind of thing. But yet there's so many TV shows on anymore where they're paranormal. They go in houses searching for spirits, but yet they won't believe in a Holy Spirit. A spirit is a spirit. This is the Holy Spirit. So how can we believe in something one way but don't really believe in another way? They're chased out of the house by demons. I've seen that one on YouTube. But yet they don't believe in God as the Spirit. You believe in demons, but you don't believe in God. I'm kind of, it's not all registering here. I'm missing something somewhere. You know what we're missing? We're missing the love of Jesus. We're missing that love. And she says, where she's saying, she can say, a woman, believe me, he's saying, a time is coming when you worship the Father neither on this mountain. But yet a time is coming when you worship in spirit and in truth. For they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. What's He looking for? He's looking for that spirit. He's looking for that truth. He's looking for worshiping Him for who He is and not for who we make Him to be. He's worshiping in His love for us, the love that He gives us. I don't know what life's giving you. I don't know what kind of love life gives you. But I know the love that Jesus gives you. And that I can speak of. And His love is far beyond anything that we can ever have endured or known. We can't even measure it. The woman said, I know that Messiah, called Christ, is coming. When He comes, He will explain everything to us. I felt like that in ministry sometimes. I'd tell them exactly what I got to say, and they said, well, when our preacher gets here, he's going to tell us everything we need to know about that. I can imagine Jesus, putting human terms on him. Jesus declared, I, the one speaking to you, am He. I am He. Boy, there's a word pool. 3 little words. I am. Well, where did that come from? I am. Remember when Moses asked God what His name was? I am. Then who is I am He? I am He. That's big words right there. The disciples rejoined Jesus, and the disciples returned and were surprised to find Him talking with this woman. But no one asked, what do you want, or why are you talking with her? There's sometimes the best thing we can do in life when somebody is loving on somebody else in the Spirit is to keep our mouths shut and let them do it. Sometimes we just need to let the Spirit do what it needs to do. Because a lot of times we used to be called when we were first Christians. That was came about in Rome. But before that part came about from the Romans, you know what we were called? In the way. That was what we were called. We were always in the way, and a lot of us today still are. When we move in front of God and when we try to do His work for Him and we don't have the love He has, what does He say? I just mentioned a minute ago about Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 13. If I have not love, then I'm just as same as a gong or a cymbal clashing. If I don't have love to operate in, His love to operate in, understanding His love for us, being His love for us and understanding that, then I have nothing to offer but just running my mouth. And He was so glad when I felt like I had something to offer because He got tired of me being in the way and running my mouth. And I don't mean to sound that way. His love is so important in what we have today. His love is needed so much. His love, His encompassing love that reaches past our sins, that reaches past our lives, that reaches far in and pulls us. The prodigal father, or the father that stood watching for the prodigal son on the mountain, waiting for him to return, already given him everything he had to give him, and when he come back, he gave him the best robe and the fatted calf. Still looking for us to return when we walk away, still wanting, still lingering, still wanting to give us the most he had in his son. His son could have, he could have picked somebody. He could have picked an angel if he'd have wanted to. That's God. But he said, no, I get mad at him. I get furious. I'm jealous, God. I'm righteous. I'm holy, but I love them. And I'm going to send them the best that I've got. I'm going to send my son to die. We miss that part a lot in His love. Could we do that? Could we do that? The closest I've come to understanding that is talking to a Gold Star parent when his son was killed overseas, and he said, "This is as close as I know to come to what God must have felt like when He gave His son and watched him die on the cross." He said, I was a soldier too, and he said, that sacrifice I understand. He did it because he loved his country, loved the people there. And he would have done it again if he could. Well, don't you think that's what Jesus looked out? God said, I love them. Even they don't love me. They spit on me. They're hating me all the way to the hill of the cross, all the way to Golgotha. They spit, they trampled. One man was chosen to carry the cross for him. Everybody else had nothing to do with him but just to heckle. And what did he say? In spite of who we are, He still loved us. He loved us first. All right? Now we're going to look at this woman just real quick. The woman said, I know that this is Messiah. And He said, I am He. The disciples rejoined, and they didn't ask. They let Him alone, thank God. Then leaving her water jar, the woman went back to town and said to the people, come see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah? And they came out of town and made their way toward Him. He offered them something that made other people want to come. He offered them something, said, I want to go meet Him. I want to go see Him. Because He's got something. He's got something that He can tell her this. And I'm sure some of them went for the show. Some of them went to see what He could do next. And that's why He left a lot of times, because He wasn't there for His show. I'm sorry, Benny Hinn does, but He didn't. He was there to do the work of the Father. And if that meant leaving a multitude to rest and be ready to go when He met somebody along the way, He didn't want to draw those crowds. He wasn't there for that. Because that would mean people would be coming to Him just for what He was doing, and He wanted to understand who He was. He wanted to understand the Father loved Him and why He came. Now, what is it with this woman? She said, I'm not married now. I know that. He said, you've been married 5 times, and one you're with now is not your husband. I know that. Kind of reminds me, which we'll get on the next time, but kind of reminds me of the woman caught in adultery. What changed Him when He said, go and sin no more, which is basically what He's telling her. I know who you are, but I'm still going to can give you living water if you just ask. What can turn a person from keeping them from sinning no more? Can you do it yourself? Man, I can't even diet myself. I'll go one day and I'm so hungry that night that I can't fight off those feelings. I'm going to get me some Cheerios and an oatmeal cookie and probably some crackers and I don't know what else before the night's over, a sandwich. That's my diet when I do it myself. What would change that? What would change my life of doing what I was into? If I was into whatever I was into that wasn't a God, what would change that? What would change that fact that like this woman? Turn your eyes up on Jesus. Look full in his wonderful face. And what? The things of this earth will go strangely dim. So what is going to change a life to sin no more? Because Jesus said, turn your eyes on me. Go and sin no more. Where are your accusers? Where are they? They're gone. Well, neither do I accuse you. Because he told us he did not come to the world to condemn the world, but to save it, for the world has condemned itself. He come with a love that passes all understanding, that passes everything that could be known, to come to us and bring it to us because we couldn't do it. We couldn't do the least little thing that his love can do. What kind of love is this? What kind of man is this? That can take a heart and change it, that can feel a need, and so cliche it, but until you really understand Jesus, it's not cliche. He can fill those needs that you try to fill with everything else. He's the one that can fill that openness, that emptiness, that whatever's in your heart. He knows how to fill that. And when you look up on your eyes, you may have been caught like this woman was, off guard. Well, he already knows. When you turn your eyes up on him, you don't have to do it. You don't have to quit your sin. He will. Because you won't need it anymore. And I've heard people say, when I come to Jesus, I don't want to come right now because I've got to give this up, or I'll have to give. I'm like, man, you don't have to give anything up. But when you come to Jesus, you're going to find out you just don't need it anymore. Don't take your bath before you come to him and let him take you a shower, He'll clean you up. He promises he will. And there's things you're going to find out when you look up on him and you walk with him, and he reaches down for every one of us, because the woman caught, or this woman, there's no sin that was different there. When he looks down on us and all the things that we've been through and all the things we've done, and he tells us to go and sin no more. Wow. Why? Because that is a transforming love. His love is not just saying, oh, I love you, man. Or his love don't go and say, I will die for you, because he did that. His love goes beyond the grave. His love goes beyond the resurrection. His love goes all the way to the ascension to heaven and waiting on us to be a part of it too. His love says, I can change you, I can fill you, I can give you. And it's not just all joy and need, but it is a life that he gives you, a new life. He tells us you'll have a new life in me. You'll be reborn. And that comes out of his love. And because of his love, that's how he sets aside a time for us. Well, I'm hearing people say now, you don't preach about the just God. You don't preach. Well, yes, I do. And yes, I tell you, yes, I do believe in a hell, and I believe people are going there, but I don't believe he's sending them. I believe they send themselves, or he wouldn't have sent his son to do what he did. Now, you need to speak about his justice. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. But don't forget to speak about his grace and his love also. Because his love is what people's needing today. The real, true love of Christ. It's not just in what we say, it's in who we are. And I've used this before, and I continue to use it because it's the best truth I've known. It's worked for me. They will know we are Christians by how many verses we know, by how we memorize the Bible, by we make sure every footstep's planned every day. No. They'll know by who we are. We're Christians. They'll know it by our love. And that encompassing love is there when we fall, and when he helps us up. And when we fall, and he helps us up. When we do good and we celebrate together. when we have sickness, when we have joy, when we have mourning, when we have laughing, there's a time for it all. And his love is in all of it. That's his love. It's not just, oh, I love you now, I love you this, I love you that. You don't have to worry about his love. You don't have to think, oh, well, when's he going to take this love away? Because he's not, because he can't. He is who he is. And that love encompasses all. What do you think changed this lady's heart? What do you think made her realize that, all those guys in all her life that she's known, what changed that? Because somebody really loved her. With all her faults, with all her hangy-onies, with all the flab under her chin, with all the bellies that come on us, with all the way we walk, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He loves us. And when we start learning to love in the way he's loving us, when we start looking at others the way he looks at us, then we're going to be able to extend that love. And we don't know who we might touch, because he's got them ready. Even if we plant a seed. We may plant a seed, we may cultivate, or we may reap. We don't know where we are in that person's life, but we know there's a place for us. We got to start with ourselves. We have got to show God. Show him who we are by saying, look at it, look at me. Who am I? What do I need? Do I need forgiveness in my life? You need to show me, because these things you've already done. And you got to realize that he can fill a space. Greater love hath no man than lay down his life for his friends. And when I just a couple of examples without even reading the scriptures. When they brought the friend, dropped him through the roof, Jesus didn't say, get him out of here. He didn't say, I'll get him later. He stopped the whole service right there and said, hey, I got him. I got him. And one we're going to touch on a little later is the leper himself. That's run out of town. Many years he lived in the lepers colony, in the lepers town, until Jesus came by. And you know what Jesus did? He didn't walk on the other side of the street. He walked over and touched him. Another big no-no. Probably hadn't been touched in years. What changed that man is that touch. A touch. Because all those years he could look over and see his family and couldn't go to them. That touch changed his life and he could go home. His touch changes our life so we can go home. That's the love I want us to get a hold of. And that's the love I want to get a hold of me more than anything. Because you can't get by without his love. It's everywhere. I'm going to end it with this saying right here from the Bible passage. Young man, been blind since birth. Guess what? Jesus come by and touched him. Told him to go down to the synagogue and show them like they're supposed to do. And they was wanting to question him. Who is this man that touched you? Who is this? What is his name? He didn't do this in our rights. We didn't give him this authority. We didn't give this. The man said, I don't know anything about that. He said, all I know is I was blind. Now I see.